the data set could have been like. I think it's best to just share my entire screen instead. Oops. Okay. Yeah. On our data set, so we had two different data sets. We had one which was the train data, and the other one which was the test data. So the train data and the test data, but however, considering how the test and train data, how they're being divided, the train data is mainly divided into okay, so to get with the train data and the test data, it is just one entire data set that's been divided into two. So it's divided into two so that you can probably train a model, feed a model your data, and then test it, validate if what you have done is correct or if it is good, you know. So that's the reason why we have test data and train data. Sometimes people even go as far as having 3 data sets from one entire data. So they have the train, the test, and the validation. So, but however, it's still the same thing. So, okay, I'm just trying to get the PowerPoint so that we could read the work. I had it here. Okay. Just a minute, please. Okay, but so as I'm trying to get the question. Okay, so who has an idea of data quality? Like in general, when we see data quality, probably you're given a data set and you have to like pick out the issues, things that are wrong with the data. But in general, like what's your idea? What comes to your mind first when you're being told about data quality? Or when you have a data set, what comes to your mind? Anyone wants to share? Hello?
So, sorry, can I understand your question better?
Oh, okay, so I was asking, so whenever you're given a data set, right, and probably you're told or you're asked to pick out issues, data quality issues in your data, like what comes to mind first? What do you understand by data quality issues?
I think when you say data quality issues, it's like checking for abnormalities in the data that you're given to.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I said checking for like abnormalities in the data that you're given to, or inconsistent trend or something, just making sure that data is actually correct.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a nice one. Yes, that's true. Okay, so let's see from my slides. Let me see what I have here. Okay. Can you just confirm what you see? Can you see the slide or what is Zoom showing?
Yes, it's showing the quest for data quality is a journey, not a destination. That's what true.
All right, so these are quotes about data quality. The quest for data quality is a journey and not a. Okay, so let's make it more interactive so I don't get to read the slides. So I'm going to pick randomly so that we get to read the slides. Okay, so the first person on my list is Adiola. So can you help us read our slide? Just this one that you can see. The quest for data quality.
Okay. The quest for data quality is a journey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
The quest for data quality is a journey, not a destination. So organization must view data quality management as an iterative process in which continuous improvement is the real goal. Okay.
Okay. So the idea is that because real life data set is completely messy and you can't get everything that you want in the data, you get. So yes, so it has to be a continuous process. It's a journey to say we want to be able to achieve clean data at this particular day or in 3 years, next 3 years. We're tired of seeing missing values. We're tired of seeing incomplete records. How can we achieve a better clean data so that we can have better analysis? We can have good quality. How can we store our data? How can we collect our data so that it's good for our analysis? So they're saying that, okay, so it's something that it's a loop process, it's a continuous process, right? And there must be improvement as you keep going. So you can say at this particular point, I'm working on this data set and I have to create this solution, and these are the issues that I found, but I'm not giving any feedback to say, okay, these are the issues I found and this is how I think you should tweak them. But I just go ahead to create a solution. And the next time I have to work with that data, I'm going through the same thing again. So in other words, I can say, okay, this is quite sustainable. So definitely it has to be like a continuous process. It's back and forth. You have to do mitigation, you have to give recommendation, and you have to state your solution, basically. Okay, so we don't have much to do today. We have what do we have? What do we mean by data quality? How can we know what data quality is? And there's a framework, so we just go through the entire framework and then pick from our data, how based on the framework, then we look at the final solution, and then that'll be the end of today. Okay, so we'll start with what do we mean by data quality? Okay, so I'm gonna pick Tolu. Tolu, are you settled already?
The fish.
Hello, Tolu. Okay, so I think Tolu is not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I'm almost.
Okay,
I
so,
cannot read your.
okay.
I can see your. I can't read now. I should be home in like 3 minutes.
All right, okay. So we're going to move to Clifford then.
What do we mean by data quality? First, the user needs is met in the data set.
Yes.
Second, data meets users' standard of excellence or expectations.
Okay. So the idea is that so I don't know if you've had when people ask questions. Okay, if you're in the active community on data Twitter, you find out that people ask questions, how can I treat missing values? And the reply or the response that they get is based on the data and based on what you want to achieve. That's what we mean by first, the user's need is met in the data set. So I have a data set and this is what my users want. They say, okay, I want to improve my business operations. Okay. Or I want to improve my marketing campaign. And based on the data that they have at that moment, you know, you can't meet, you can't find anything that's relevant that would meet, this user or would help this user to meet the needs of their marketing campaign. So in this case, if you definitely would, see a lot of loops in this data, and in that case, the user's need is not met. So for data to be quality, the needs of the user must be met in the data set. Okay. And that's why when it's not met, then you have to identify them and reach out to the users. The data meets the user standard of excellence and expectations. So it's almost the same thing as the needs of the user will be met, but it's saying, okay, this is your expectation and this is your standard. So I'm trying to meet that, to meet you at that point where you are. Okay. Who has any question before we proceed to the next slide? Okay, so let's go to our next slide. All right, so this one's about how can we know this? Like, how can we know about the data quality? Okay, so let me go to Timley. Hello, Timley. Okay, I think Timley isn't with us. Oh, great. Hi, Timley. Hello?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Hello. Hello, Timmy. Okay. So can you help us with the slide? How can we know this?
I can hear you, Timmy.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I was saying if you can read the slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
The current slide, how can we know this?
Yeah.
Urge to understand the characteristics of the data set and how it was collected and whether it can be compared with another. Secondly, help your users decide how well it can meet their own needs or expectations.
Okay. So how can we know about data quality, or how can we meet our data quality needs? First, you want to help. So probably after finding out or picking out these issues on the data, you want to help your users decide how well they can meet their own needs or expectations based on the data they collect. So basically in the data set, you will find these issues and then you can pick them out and say, okay, this particular variable, I think it's relevant to our analysis, but however, it has not been collected properly. And this is what I think you should do for you to be able to meet that need in future, or this need in future, or should it be that you need this particular data to meet some other needs in future? So basically, because looking at data quality, the first code, it says that it's a process, it's a journey. It doesn't just stop. It's something that's continuous. Then you need to have the urge to understand the characteristics of the data sets. And this is the most important step in trying to look at data quality or to find data quality, because if you don't know how the data has been collected, if you don't know if this data can be compared with another data, if you don't know the features, what makes up this data, and the things about the data, then you would not understand if this is an issue or not. You could see a blank space and think that, oh, these are just missing values. But if you understand how the data has been collected, you probably see that this really may not be missing, it may be that, it's not completely required. And there might be another variable, another feature that meets that expectation. So you would not probably say that this could be a missing value. For example, in our data set that we worked with, okay, so you will find out that in one of the features, it was a continuous feature. And although part of the sub-product or sub-issue in the data set, they had missing values, but we had one other column that was called issue. And basically, if you looked at the sub-issue, you would see that the main variable in that data is issue, because issue had a very complete column, while sub-issue, it's just people saying, okay, this is an issue, this is my issue, but then I am trying to explain under. And not everybody would actually do that. Not everybody may have a sub-issue. So in that case, I would still say that it would obviously need completeness. Okay. So let's see the next one. Okay, so what could an issue look like? So I'm going to go through this one. Okay. So let's do an activity. So let's look at the slide that we have on the board. We see that there, so on one part of the column, there's accurate, and on the other side, we have issues that can be found in the data. So what could a data issue look like? For example, I know that the name Anthony is spelled, Anchony, right? And in my data set, I'm seeing Anthony being spelled as Antony. In that case, there is no accuracy. It's not accurate. So definitely that's an issue. Okay. In terms of male is being spelled in different way. And then what I have in my data set, I'm having male with a double ES. That's incorrect. So I would treat that. But it's not just all about changing it. It's also about saying, this is what I found, and this is what I'm recommending. Because you don't want to keep meeting that same problem in your solutions or in every solution that you have to create using that data. So let's say, for example, you work in a consulting company or with a consulting company, and you have to tell them, this is what's going on here, this is the mitigation, this is how I treated it, and this is what I'm recommending that you do. You could say, okay, I'm recommending that instead of imputing your male and female gender by yourself, you could do a drop-down list so that all you have to do is pick it, keep selecting instead of typing. So, or you could say, okay, I'm putting a sheet protection so that, we're not having a lot of people coming into this data sets and tampering with the quality of the data. Remember, it's an unending journey. And then we're having dates as days, first, month, in the middle, year. But in my data sets, okay, so what if I could see that in some cells or for some values, I'm having day, month, and year, but in some other values, I'm having year, month, and day. So that's an issue. That's a data quality issue. If you're going to throw that into any data analytics tool, you won't be able to get good information out of it, because both of them, like there's no consistency, and it's a very big problem. From our data sets, we had zip code. So the probably an accurate zip code could be 71345, but what you could find in the data is 713XX. So it could be that maybe it has been encoded, or it could be that maybe that was just an error. But the idea is that it's in the data and it doesn't meet the requirement of what we want to find, or of the area code, of the zip code. And should the column of the zip code be something that's important to us, then in this case, how can we know that 71345 or 45 is supposed to be the missing values for the XX, because there are lots of zip code with almost the same first three figures. Okay, so I think I started this quite earlier, but let's see. If we get cut off, then we'll just repeat it again. I'll send a new link. Okay. So there's a framework to help us, look at data quality issues. First, okay. Yeah, so there's a framework. Under the framework, we have things like accuracy, we have completeness, we have consistency, we have currency, we have relevancy, validity, uniqueness, and all of these frameworks, all of these, areas, this bar, it helps us clean our data properly. In fact, I believe that for me, I really think that the idea of, the whole data quality or understanding this framework would help you clean your data well and will help you have good quality data. So, and it will guide you basically, because it's not like you're just jumping on data and then you're just, checking for things and wasting your time. It's like you already know what to do and you're just going straight to the point. So I'm going to stop the slide share and then we can quickly go to look at the question. Then we'll come back to our slides to look at the solutions to the questions. So I'm going to stop this. Hello, everyone that's joining us now. Okay, so if you have a question, you can just chip it in as well.
None for now.
None for now.
Okay, good. Okay, so based on our data sets, the consumer complaints resolution. So we are to look at disputed complaints which have been resolved, and that could be critical to our data sets. That's one. And also because we want to predict whether a complaint resolution will be accepted or rejected by a consumer, so that the business can proactively look at complaints which will be disputed and know or find, which can be disputed, so that they can save themselves of, unnecessary escalation with this consumer. So the idea is that once we know the complaints that come in the most, or the complaints that are accepted or rejected by a consumer, then we will prepare ourselves properly, so that when next we have such issues, we know how to treat them. So basically, we want to see which complaints have a higher potential to be disputed. But before we do that, we have to go through the data. You have to clean your data and prepare your data for the analysis. So I'll be sharing the screen again, and then we can go through. So for me, I did a solution. So I'm just going to show the solution before we go back. So this is my solution. This is my end solution or my reports. But before I arrived at that, so I had to do, we have a framework, we have accuracy, we have completeness, we have consistency, relevancy, uniqueness, validity. So I'm going through all of that and looking for which is which in my data sets. Okay. So in terms of accuracy, so accuracy is basically when the values are correct. For example, we know that the Nigerian phone number is like 11 digits, right? But if we have like 10 numbers or we have a value that's 10 numbers, in this case, it doesn't meet accuracy. But because accuracy is when the values are correct. Just like our example, we know that Anthony is being spelled, ants and honey. But if we're having Anthony, like ANTONY, then we know that that's not accurate. We know that male is being spelled MALE, but if we're having male with double E's, then we know that in this case it has not met accuracy. So from our data set, the zip code column did not meet accuracy. We can see that codes are being represented as 319XX, which I think maybe it was encoded. But however, I also still think that it wasn't still encoded. So my mitigation was use regular zip code or just collect the consumer's address. Because if we have the consumer's address and probably there was a mix-up on the zip code, then in that case, we would use the address to trace the zip code and be able to get it or correct that issue. And then I'm recommending that a colon protection that allows for zip code for only numbers. So in my own opinion, I'm saying zip code is just numbers. So if it's only numbers that are in there, then we will not have things like XX being at the end. So my treatment was, in order to construct a meaningful data set, the zip code column will be dropped. Because I also did not think that zip code was had a strong relevance to looking at if a consumer complaint will be accepted or not, and looking at which of the complaints would, is not accepted. So before we go forward, okay, so all right, so for the next one, completeness. So completeness is, for example, so we have so the data fields within the values, basically what is missing. So completeness wants to see, is something missing? For example, customer ID is 3,000, but on still the same data set, we have another variable that's customer consent provided, and it's 2,500. In this case, 500 observations is missing. So completeness is just all about saying, are there missing values in this data? And if you can find missing spaces, okay, But in our data set, we had a lot of empty records. We had a lot of missing spaces. But a few ones that I picked for the states column. So the state code, I said the state codes are quite incomplete and they show blank spaces. Well, I think we have less than 1 minute on this Zoom. So if it goes up, I will just send a new link to the group. Okay. So okay, so back to states. So states codes are quite incomplete and they show blank spaces. So my mitigation is that please ensure that all states are recorded. And I'm recommending that there should be a drop-down list with the state codes because I feel that maybe this was a human error. So if there is a drop-down list, so all they have to do is just pick which of the states could match. So the treatment is basically filling up the blank spaces with the mode. But if you're filling up blank spaces,
Filling up, you said that treatment is filling up blank space with the mode. Is that not like assuming, will that give us a correct data quality at the end of our query and everything?
well, that's making assumptions, to be honest, because
Yeah.
really, like I said, one thing that you want to look into when you're filling up your blank spaces with the mode is bias. So if you're doing it, then you're sure that you're going to have a biased data where one particular states have more than almost every other thing. So you probably might be having a case of where you're having the high up, basically. So the case of bias is something that would happen if you're looking at the filling of blank spaces with the mode. Does that answer your question, Clifford?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so
sorry, take you back.
Sure.
What do you mean by the mode? What do you mean by with the mode? What does the mode mean?
Okay, so mode is the highest occurring value.
Mode, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for the tags column, oh my God. Basically, if you looked at the tags column, you would see that it didn't have enough values in it. In fact, up to 90% or 80% of the values in that column were missing. And so the treatment was just remove the column, basically, because up to 80% of the values are missing. So there's really nothing that you're going to get from it. So the tags column was taken out. In terms of completeness also, because we had two data sets, one is the train and one is the test. So the values and features on the test data are lesser than the values on the train data, which is correct, or which is likely to be the case, because let's say, for example, how you're going to divide your data sets. If you just prepare your data set for testing and train, you probably would say, I want 70% as train and 30% of my data as test, or 80% as train and then the remaining 20% as test. So it is true that the test data would have lesser values than the train data. And some columns that you find in the train data set will not be found in the test data set. So in this case, the train data set is the master slide, and that's what we use for our analysis. And considering the test, so I said the train data set is the master slide, considering that the test data is used to validate the trained data. So in terms of consistency, when we had company's name, I felt that the variables, or sorry, the values in the column company name, they show inconsistency. So inconsistency is basically saying, okay, these values here, are they free from contradiction? You know, like for example, I could still say that the zip code does not meet consistency because of how we're having, we have all numbers and then we're having XXX, you know, at the back of some zip codes. So that's not consistent. So if we're having probably where you're supposed to be having values, you don't want to have text values in there. Where it's supposed to be just numbers, you don't want to have text in there. And so for the company code, or for the company name, I found that some of the variables there were acronyms of this company. So you want to push this back to them to say that, okay, if you want the names of the companies to be in this column, give me the names of the companies and keep the acronyms out of the columns, or give me acronyms and keep, you know, the company's name out of the column. In terms of consistency, the states column meets consistency, and I would not say that's an issue. I would say that has passed the test of consistency because we had acronyms representing the states in America, and that was constant through it. So that's an example of consistency. Okay, so in terms of model development, so model development is another step after cleaning your data. Then before, you know, creating your solution, and after cleaning your data is model development. So in this case, I'm saying that there was no new variable that was created. So in the case where you're probably creating a new variable, where you think that something new would help the state of the analysis, you know, then you want to probably create a new variable. If I probably did anything outrageous, if I tested for hypothesis, if I tested for variance or anything, I'll put that under model development, just stating that this is what I did. So, because basically everything that you want to do to get to the point of your solution should be accounted for. And that's just what we're trying to achieve in the end. So basically, the simple data quality statement will help a user understand how and why the data was collected, clarify what the data represents, review or assess the data against their own requirements. So I'll just be going through the Power BI. So I'm going to take us to Power BI now so that we could look at probably ways to look that can help us see data quality issues better, or how we can identify data quality issues, some of them in the Power BI before coming to the solution. But I'll just run us through my solution before taking us to Power BI. So basically, we want to see the complaints that have higher potential to be disputed by the consumer. And basically, I looked at the company's response to a consumer. So another thing that you want to go through when creating your solution is that you want to be sure that you're choosing the right chats and you are using the right interactions. I'm just going to, I think it's best to show this on the Power BI. So I'll move into Power BI. Because please, can you let me know if you could see my Power BI slide?
Okay. Yes, that's okay.
Power BI slide of Power BI itself.
Yeah, my Power BI
slide of summary.
Yeah, my probably has to be done.
Okay, yeah, that's done.
So I'll just mute. All right, great. Okay, so like I said, you just want to be sure that it's a map that's here where we have state by issue, but I don't know why it's not loading right now. But you want to be sure that you're picking the right charts that explain the story that you're trying to tell. We want to see the complaints that have a higher potential to be disputed. So, and you want to pick the right interactions as well. Yes, I want to show the company's response to the customer or to the consumer if they had a timely response or not. So because I felt that, okay, so if the response was timely enough, okay, then could it have affected if it's going to be disputed or not? And first, I could see that, okay, so the consumers get a timely response, then I'm seeing 92% of customers or consumers having a timely response. So I could also feel that, okay, maybe. But I want to show the issues that have been resolved because we want to show which of them have a higher potential to be disputed. I want to show issues that have been received monthly from these companies and the companies with the highest resolved dispute. But basically, my interactions are just profit for all my products. So I have products and I have if it has been resolved or not. So so sometimes, I think to show if it has been resolved or not, this was where we had the customer disputed, yes or no. So sometimes you want to change it to something that's more readable. So for me, I just change it to accepted or rejected because someone who will see yes or no might be confused, like what's going on here. But if I'm saying accepted or rejected, I would see the ones that have been accepted and I can see the disputes that were not actually resolved, that were rejected by the consumer. And we could say, okay, show me everything has been accepted, then show me everything has been rejected based on the year and as well based on the product. So you also want to interact in a way that, it's good, it tells the story, it achieves what the needs of the user is. But basically, if you did the solution, you know that mortgage had the highest claims. But if you look through properly, even in the mortgage, we had, the issues that were actually accepted and rejected based on the year as well. So there's a lot of story to be told in this data set. But for you to achieve or to get that story, you have to definitely clean your data properly so that you can have enough story as possible to tell. And then it has to be readable. For example, rejected or accepted, I feel like it's more readable than saying if it has been, than saying if it's yes or no. So I said I was going to show how you could, look at data quality on your Power Query editor. So I'm just going to Power Query editor right now. So for my training set and I imported my test sets because like I said, this is one data set together. It's just divided to train and 30% of data set. Yes, although train is the master sheet, the dependent variable that we're looking at, that is if it has been accepted or rejected. If you look, another thing, you need to look at which of it is dependent and which of it is independent. So, for example, for our data, like I said, the dependent variable is basically what if a complaint was accepted or rejected by the by the consumer. Okay, so this is my Power Query. Okay, I thought I was showing the test, the train set, but it was a test. Okay. So on your Power Query editor, when you bring in your data sets and you go into Power Query to clean, so if you go to the view ribbon, you will be able to, you can tick column distribution and tick column quality. So when you tick column quality, what you get is it shows you the empty cells. For example, where we have subproducts, we can see empty cells as 30% empty cells and 70% valid cells. So when there's an error, Power Query will definitely flag it to you. On the consumer narrative, we can see 80%.
Wait, we can only see your desktop, your Power BI.
Yes, because I'm lost.
Yes. Oh no, thank you. Okay, so I think. Oh wow.
Because I noticed your mouse was rolling throughout. So maybe.
Okay. Okay.
I think we're getting to the same page now.
Okay, so this is better now, right?
Yeah, but please, that means you have to start again from.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, I was explaining how you could, see the column quality or see overall of your data quality, or help you look at the columns that have issues in your Power Query editor. So when you go to, so from home on your Power Query editor, if you click on view, then you can see the column quality. So I was saying how if you look at the column subproduct, you'd see that we have 30% valid and 30% empty column, empty spaces, and 70% valid. So if there's an error somewhere, the idea is that Power Query would show us that there's an error in this cell and this is something that you have to look at. For sub-issue and consumer complaints narrative, yes, these are issues and they're completely different from the issue. But if you look properly, we could say that, okay, yes, the sub-issue column has missing spaces, and in this case, it should actually it doesn't meet completeness, but that's true. But if you look properly, if you look at the data based on how the data has been collected, the issue is the main column. The sub issue is just a sub of the issue. And you're probably going to say that I have an issue. What's your issue? I click on deposit and withdrawals. That's my issue. Then I go to explain what time to deposit money. That could be a sub issue. Again, you want to go through the data dictionary to understand what each variable, what if each feature represents. The sub issue represents this. Okay, so it means that once I know what sub issue means, then I would understand every other thing that's under the sub issue column. So deposit and withdrawals. So my sub issue is that I can't make withdrawals. So I can't deposit money and I can't make withdrawals. And what's the consumer complaint narrative? I'm explaining how I've been trying probably 10 times to deposit money or to send money from my app to another app, and it's not working. And this is what I did. And this is what I did to go about it. So in this case, if you look properly, or if you try to understand the collection of this data, you could see that first of all, not every time that your consumer want to actually talk about what's going in their products. the idea is that I have an issue. Is my issue here? Yes, I have selected that this is my issue. Now, if it's that deep, then I will now definitely explain. So I feel that that's how it's been collected, and that was how I, drafted my response. So my solution. So I didn't go for the consumer complaint narrative. I didn't go for the sub issue. What I basically went for was the issue because I felt that that was the most relevant variable or feature in this data. You can also see on the states column, we have 99% valid and less than 1% into sales. Another thing you want to look at again is the column distribution. Because sometimes you may not have enough time to go through everything. Sometimes you want to know what are the distinct variables. Yes, I have all of these values under my column, right? But which of them are distant? For example, the product column, we have 10 distinct and we have 1 unique. We're having 30 distinct and we're having 4 unique. So unique might be probably duplicates. So that could be something else that you want to look at. Okay, does my column have duplicates values? And if it does, what does these duplicates, literally represent? How do I treat the duplicates values? Which are the duplicates values? Because you don't want to just remove what is duplicate on one column. And then when you scroll down, right, you would see that what is duplicate on one column is not actually a duplicate. And in that case, you have removed that observation from the data and, you've reduced the quality of the data set. Okay, so our time is 7:09. So if anyone has questions, we'll just go through it and then we'll call it a day. And if you still like to send in your solution to me, like you are free to do that as well. But if you have a question, you can drop it before we close for today. Any questions, please?
Okay.
Hello, Clifford. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I thought somebody was about to say.
No, I don't.
Okay. So you said your solutions was based on the issues in this your Power Query. Your solutions, your end product was based on issues in this Power Query.
Yes, based on the issue because I couldn't use the sub issue. So the variables
because you couldn't do what?
I couldn't use the sub issue because the sub issue had missing values and the sub issue is just a sub of the issue. So basically, I can't I feel like the issue held better story for me than the sub. So I definitely went for the sub issue instead of trying to see how I can fill this up. So I use the issues and and the consumer disputed because this probably shows if it was yes or no. So I have to look at what is yes and what is no. And then I replaced it with accepted and rejected because I felt that saying was this issue accepted, the solution to this issue, was it accepted by the consumer, or was it rejected by the consumer? Because that's what they want to see. They want to know which complaints have a higher potential to be disputed, that's to be rejected basically by the consumer. So you have to show which is accepted and which is not accepted. I don't know if I answered your question.
Towards the last part, I didn't get. You said you use the issues and the consumers what?
The consumers disputed. So
Okay.
consumer dispute
And you change.
is a variable.
You replace the value from yes to accepted, no to rejected.
Yes,
Okay.
because
So you created.
I'm with you.
Created this consumer disputed yourself. We came with the data set.
It came with the data set as a yes or no, but I felt that saying
Okay.
yes and no was not readable. So I wanted something to be more readable and more compelling. So I changed it to accepted and rejected.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there any more questions? Okay, so if there's no more questions, so we can just call it a day for today. So I'll be sharing with you my Power BI and the slides, and then I'll see if I can download the video because I think I was recording it. So I would see if I can download it. I don't know if I was recording this, but I think I recorded the first one, but I'll check.
Yes, you're recording two of them. You're recording these two.
All right, cool.
Yeah, the red recording symbol is there.
Okay, so I'll just download it and then I'll upload it and then I would send the link to the upload as well. Then we would have then I'll throw in probably a new question, and this time I would not have to, talk about it. It will be you who will have done the solution, telling us what you've done, and I think that will be more helpful than, me just talking. So. Thank you for participating today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
So thank you too. So I will look for a more interesting data for
So we have financial data looks more interesting.
financial data.
Yeah, it looks more interesting.
What do you think? Okay, so
Sorry?
yeah, so I'll just check through financial data and then we would see. I will let you know what I come up with.
All right, thank
For
you.
next month.
Debbie, who mind the sports data too, please?
Sports data.
Yeah.
All right, so sports and financial data. So I'll look through it and then I would definitely put that on the group.
Thank you.
Okay. So good night. Have a lovely
Good night.
evening.
You too.
Yeah, have a lovely week.
Right.